going in dry. Welcome to the OhSoSpurs podcast. We'll leave you to come up with the context of that conversation, but we're going to be discussing the defeat against Newcastle. But look, there's some more important topics in there to go over. Did we get the lineup and rotation levels right? And what does that signify in terms of prioritizations of competitions? We've got a lot of lessons from that last season, which I think give us a better place to pass judgment on that as Spurs fans. The game itself, a couple of iffy decisions by the ref. We'll discuss those too. And we'll preview Chelsea and finish off with a fun hypothetical question. And to help me with it all is, at least two of us are in sunshine. We've got Deej over in sunny California. How are you, Deej?
I'm doing all right. It's actually a bit cloudy here today I guess foggy, but yeah, mostly sunny. Much better day here than I can imagine it would have been on the train home from Newcastle.
Yeah, that's a very long journey back as well for our away fans. So
For you
respect to
Euro
those who went.
people,
Oh no, this is like 7 hours
that's a day. That's easy.
if you live in London.
That's easy. That's LA for me. I do that in my sleep.
Fair enough. But you have a nicer view on the way home. Right, and we have Stu over in Dubai. How are you, Stu?
I'm good. A little tired after going to bed late when the game finished, but that's what happens when the clocks go back in the UK for winter.
You don't pay no taxes, man. I feel sorry for you. Don't deserve any break. And we got Sai, another one of those fancy expats as well, living the dream. How are you, mate?
Living the dream, Jim. Living the dream, as you say.
Oh, very good. Guys, should we start with the lineup before the game? Because there was some debate, as there never is in Spurs. We always just get along. I think I love about Spurs. We never argue over anything internally. It's always just harmonious. So Kinski versus Vicario, that didn't spark any debate. Van der Ven and Kudus being the two prominent names. But apart from that, to be honest, it was probably the strongest team we could have picked, I believe. I don't think there's much else we could have rotated. So we did actually go quite strong. But sorry, were you happy with that amount of balance, in terms of trying to go strong, but also not risking absolutely everyone?
Yeah, I guess, listen, hindsight's 2020, right? So we can have this argument after the match. When I saw the lineups, it was sort of like heavy rotation, but Newcastle rotated heavily as well. I mean, we weren't the only team on the pitch to rotate heavily. I guess there is a question about Kinski, and there were some messages flying backwards and forwards. I think that was the only one that really drove a level of conversation, maybe, except for Van der Ven. But then, again, with hindsight, right? Van der Ven plays last night, and then he snaps his hamstring against Chelsea on Saturday. Everyone that's called in to play on Wednesday night is up in arms because he's in the red zone and blah, blah, blah. And listen, I don't want to lose against Chelsea at the weekend. The league's really important, whether we think we can win it or not. We've got a good chance of doing something decent in the league, and you need to progress your league position in order to progress the team over the longer term. So it's a difficult one. Maybe you could have had Mawani up front instead of Richarlison to start. There's a conversation to be had there, I think. And listen, if the keeper doesn't make that blunder, I don't think he had a particularly bad game. I don't think he had an awful game. His distribution was pretty good. He gave us another option out from the back. He's not as good a shot stopper as Vic, but then no one at the club is. But he's a better distributor of the ball than Vic is, and he played some lovely balls out from the back and gave us another option. So, yeah, there's a discussion to be had, but I'm not as vociferous as some in my opinions on the prioritisation, etc. I think it was what it was. And I actually don't think we played that badly. I think attacking wise, I think it was one of the better performances we've had. And I don't want to go negative Nelly, but I'll take up Johnny's mantle whilst he's off. But mate, I'm not having Richarlison. I'm just not.
Well, we're gonna get to the topic.
I'm just sticking that out there.
We're gonna get to this topic a bit later on here because I feel like, and we discussed it before, openly, everyone has that player. Most people have that player that they lean towards when things aren't going well to say, I told you. And then we amplify
We do.
what those
There's a
players are doing.
confirmation bias there that I'm looking
Absolutely.
for. But like I said to you before we started, you guys have made me eat my hat a couple of times on Richarlison, and I've got a new hat now, and it's going to take a bit more for me to cook that one up and get it eaten. That was me.
Before we move to, I want to, DJ, I'm going to come to you in a minute about whether there was a discussion of whether we should have deprioritized Chelsea to ensure that Van der Ven got the 90 minutes against Newcastle. And Vicario was another one. But I want to start with Vicario and Stu because we were involved in a big debate about Vicario. Should he play or should he not? I think you had some opinions on that, but then those opinions were kind of irrelevant when more came to light about why he wasn't playing, Stu.
I mean, my opinion of Vicario. I've said all along that I always thought it was a bit of a joke that people thought his position was at risk and we should have promoted Kinski. That said, we brought in a young goalkeeper. He can improve. As Sai said, he's amazing with the ball at his feet. And the only way he's going to improve is by playing. And in my opinion, and looking at most Premier League managers, because they did all the same thing, is the League Cup is one where you give your second goalkeeper a chance to play and get some game rhythm, etc., etc. And so that's what I was actually expecting prior to the game, that Kinski would start. Then he did. Okay, I think the first goal Vicario probably would have saved. The second one, mistakes happen. Even Raya, Allison, goalkeepers make mistakes. That's just a fact of the position. Unfortunately, when they make a mistake, it tends to be a goal. And so that gets magnified. But I think, people give him a hard time. But then I was listening to View from the Lane, and it's come out that anyway, Vic's got a bit of an injury, so that's why he wasn't on the bench as well. So, I think any debate of whether Kinski should or shouldn't have started kind of falls by the wayside because he was the only goalkeeper that we could start. So,
yeah, I think it's fair and kind of in defence of because some of the people who, it's very easy for us in retrospective to say, he was injured, so that's why he wasn't there. And that's why Kinski played. But I think in the context of before about that injury, it's a fair debate, the keeper one. And some people have I do agree with, even though I feel Kinski should have played, and that's a personal opinion, there is a signal that the games you play your reserve keeper in are typically going to be obviously a lower priority to you than the games your first choice keeper's playing in. So to a lot of people, that was a sign of, this means we're not taking it seriously. But I think when you really stand back, we did play a lot of senior players in that game, and more so than our Premier League rivals did.
But where do you give him experience then? If you're going to buy these players and you need to blood them, they need to get game time. Where if it's not in an EFL Cup game, where do you blood them?
Well, this is leading on to Deej, mate. This one's for you. Prioritisation, Deej. Someone suggested that you're not going to win the league. You're going to battle really hard to try and get a spot on the top four. Should we instead do a bit of what we did last season? Not saying to that extreme, but a middle ground of that where you kind of prioritize the cup games and deprioritize the league games around those cup fixtures.
I think there's an argument to be made for doing that for certain competitions at certain points in the competition. Like even I guess in the EFL Cup, if you're in like the semifinals and you have like a bit of an injury crisis, then maybe you can say, okay, well, we rotate for the league game in between the two semifinal matches. And then in the FA Cup, if you get to the further rounds, and especially I think I would say the biggest priority would be probably the Champions League. Once you make it to the knockout stages, like that's somewhere where you can say, yeah, I mean, obviously there's like a lot of monetary gain and the game's about trophies, but especially for the Champions League, it's like you get a lot more money for each round you progress. So there's an argument to be made for those. I just don't personally think that the Carabao Cup is a like good enough trophy, especially at this point in the competition, to be essentially tossing away potential better league form than we currently like have. Like right now we're third in the league. Like we're not sitting like mid-table. We're not like, I know we like realistically can't win the league. But like stranger things have happened, Like there's no reason to like in August at the end of October say, okay, the league is over, pack it up, go next. Because like if that was the case, so many teams, like if that was like a viable way of thinking, to like win like trophies and stuff, more teams would do that. Like Newcastle would do that, Aston Villa, like teams that aren't like the Cities and Liverpools, but the teams like below that level, because like obviously winning silverware is awesome and everyone wants to win as much silverware as they can. But in order to get to those silverware, one team can win each trophy. So like even if we were to rotate, that doesn't mean that maybe like maybe we don't rotate, but like Newcastle still beats us. And then we are left with the decision of, well, do we not rotate again because we don't want 2 losses on the bounce? Or do we rotate and then that just creates a terrible feeling around the club? And I don't know. I think that at this point in the competition, there isn't like a high enough percentage chance of like winning the trophy in question that it's worth like potentially creating like a negative atmosphere on the club if we lose both games. 2, throwing a game against a rival because obviously like no one wants to lose a derby. And 3, it's just like I don't know. The league is still important as much as like the 4th and no trophy has become like a meme versus 17th and a trophy. Good teams try to do like 3rd and a trophy or 4th and a trophy. So I think that should be the end goal. And I think we have a strong enough squad without injuries. Obviously, injuries have thrown a wrench in the works, but I think we have a strong enough squad to rotate and still be competitive on all fronts.
But I would say as well, I mean, we didn't even really rotate. And if probably the only 2 that people could question is maybe Van der Ven, who wouldn't have made any difference to the goals we conceded. I think the only one people are upset about is the goalkeeper. And again, everybody plays the second goal. But Newcastle played their second goalkeeper. I think then the question is, if people have an issue with playing the second goalkeeper, because we should always play the first one, we shouldn't ever buy a promising goalkeeper. We should only buy goalkeepers that are over the hill, that are happy now to sit on the bench and play every blue moon that they get to play if the first choice keeper's injured.
And Si, you were saying earlier, weren't you? When do we play these guys? You can't just.
Well, yeah, when do you do that? And so we're talking about rotation, and it's like, well, if Bergvall came in during the season for a league game, you wouldn't question that. If Sarr came in for a league game, you wouldn't question that. These are players that you would rotate around league games as well, right? And to that point, you can't play what we would believe to be our strongest team every single game, because then you break down, you get the injuries that we don't want again, and the performance drops, and everything that we know. Players can't play 60 games in a season. So what are you going to do? The manager's got to pick and choose where he thinks he can get the best return on the rotations with the squad choice that he's got. And that's what he did last night. And like we said, I think even with hindsight, really the only 2 that people could really question was the goalkeeper. And I think there's a question about Van der Ven. Would he have made a difference on any of those corners? Maybe. A taller presence in the box? Maybe. But, it's ifs and ands, isn't it? If Milan had wheels, should be a bike.
Yeah.
You just can't have that argument. He's made a decision based on what he's got available.
And I don't buy this, like, you have to have some imaginary, like, okay, number 1 is Premier League, number 2 is Champions League, number 3 is FA Cup, number 4 is League Cup, and I'll prioritise accordingly.
Exactly.
I
think he makes decisions on what's in front of him at the time, in that moment, right? Yeah. And that's what he's paid for, by the way. We're not paid to do that stuff. We don't see it week in, week out, day in, day out in training.
We don't also have access to, the department of like 10 plus people whose sole job it is to stay on top of the players' fitness, monitor them and see who's...
Pardon? Me. We have one of those? I don't know. Based on our injury record.
I think they're all on holiday.
I think they've been on holiday for a while.
But those teams, regardless of our injury issues, we're going to get onto the injury crisis stuff in a bit. They will have data a bit like, if we oversimplify, Football Manager, you have this player's at 50% condition. There is a more complex version of that they will have on every player. And they will be looking at them and going, that player handles 3 games in a week better than that player. That player is very likely to recur an injury at a high level risk if we play them. You've got to get a balance here. And it's not quite as simple as just like picking and choosing one or the other between certain games. It also depends when games fall. Because there was always like this last season as well. It was like, just play him against, just say Everton, and then rest them against Chelsea. Well, the injury could have already happened by then. You can't just make up for it afterwards with a bit of extra rest. So it is a hard thing to manage. Should we go into the game, or do you want to just go on to the injury topic, guys? Do you have a preference?
I'd like to talk about the game a little bit because I think that like for as bad as the feeling around the feeling that I've had, at least from the fans after the game, I thought that we actually weren't that bad. Like, I hands up, I had more fun watching us attack in this game than I did against Everton. Just
For
throwing
sure.
that out there. Like, I think that we had a much better like attacking structure. We had much better attacking patterns. I thought Xavi and Bergvall played off each other very well. I actually thought that besides Brennan Johnson's first cross, I thought he put a lot of dangerous balls into the area that with a different striker or more people in the box, you create more dangerous chances. He found Xavi a couple of times to create some good shots. He made like good runs. He was consistently getting like around Dan Burn and putting the ball like right outside the 6-yard box, which is like the perfect place for the ball to be. We just didn't have a striker that would make a not back post run. Richarlison, I saw someone on X, I don't remember who, sorry, say that Richarlison plays striker like he's still a left winger, and I think that makes a lot of sense because he does tend to hover around the back post a lot, which will get him goals if the ball gets there. But when you have like Dan Burn as like your wing back and then two very aerially competent center backs in the middle, you need someone to show front post, if not to score from the front post, but at least to drag the player away from whoever it should be backfilling that space in the back post.
Mm.
So I think that is part of the reason why Johnson's crossing looked a little bit worse than I think that like it physically like was upon replay. Because I was having this conversation with Johnny actually, and we were talking about how good his crossing was, and I kind of had like the baseline idea that his crossing was like pretty bad because there weren't really any huge chances that came out of it. He had a really good header to Bergvall where Bergvall played the ball and then Richarlison just ran past it. But other than that, I couldn't remember anything super great. But then I went back and watched, and every single ball was in a good position. We just didn't have the players there to capitalize on it.
Mm-hmm.
So part of that you can say, okay, well, Brennan Johnson should see that and not put the ball there. But then part of it you can also say, well, we should just have someone there. We should have like Xavi or Bergvall should be like further up in the box to be like a secondary option besides just having Richarlison. Because
on WhatsApp when you have like a group and you see people are typing and all the bubbles pop up, you see them like type. So you know something's happened and you're all watching like 30 seconds different timings. When Johnson scuffed that really bad cross, it was like, 250 people are typing. It's like, you're like, oh, here it comes. When Siemens tried to cross it to the left flank and it just went out of play, nothing.
That's not
nothing.
It.
Not in our group anyway. It was anyway. Whatever the proportion of conversation around it was different based on each one. And Porro had a moment as well where he was running down the right flank, like here we go, and he just did some kind of like awful, like lofty scuff shot. He just went into the keeper's arms, like and again, no one said anything. I was like, even if I did, you might be saying actually there was someone who did, and it was me. But I think Johnson's got a reputation to the point where he can't escape it. Even scoring goals is not, to the point where you make fun of him for just scoring lots of goals and winning us trophies. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
But I get it. Let's not be so biased about this. He has lots of flaws to his game. He is frustrating to watch. He's not perfect, but I just think he's nowhere near he doesn't justify the vilification anywhere near to the level he gets an individualization. But anyway,
there are games where you can like I would say that there are games where sometimes, obviously I don't believe in like piling on any of our players because that's just not helpful. You're creating a negative atmosphere. You're getting them to get in their own head. You're like, it's just, there's nothing good that really comes out of that besides you allowing yourself to vent your own frustrations. That being said, there are games that I have been frustrated with the way that Johnson plays. I don't think that this game was one of them.
I think.
Oh, sorry, Shielder's hand up, Si.
Sorry, mate. I don't see that on my phone.
Oh, that'll teach you. Just get home sooner.
I should do. Shouldn't work so hard, should I?
I think you're right. I agree with Deej. I mean, there are games that BJ drives me crazy. I don't think he should play on the left wing because I think that he looks even worse on the left than he does to the right. But I think that the last 2 games, we've seen a huge improvement versus the past, even last season when all he did was score goals. The last couple of games, he's trying to be progressive instead of just getting the ball, passing it back, passing it sideways. He's trying to take on his man. He's putting in those crosses. And, I got some stats here that, surprisingly enough, HG was the one who actually sent them to me. That against Everton in 89 minutes, he had 30 touches and 3 in the opposition box. Against Newcastle in 61 minutes, it had 28, so almost as many touches and 4 in the opposition box. So you can see he's clearly improving and it's getting better. And that's all, it's what we all expected from Frank, because Frank has done wonders with forward players. I think we've just got to be patient and put our bias to one side and actually judge what we see.
Mm-hmm.
Although it's easier said than done, of course.
Si, you would want to make a point as
Yeah,
well.
no, I think on a slightly different subject, and maybe it's it would actually help Johnson. Where some of the frustration for me lays, whilst yesterday I fully agree with the other lads about it is one of the better attacking games that I've seen. Some of the plays, some of the formations, some of the interchanges were really refreshing. But there's still this. And I can't quite put my finger on it. I've been trying to look for stats to sort of like illustrate it, but there's this Newcastle were pressing really hard last night at times. And I thought that there were times where we played out from the back really nicely. We played through the lines, and there would be a line splitting ball that would take out 5 Newcastle players. And instead of herring on, we would run forward for 10 yards and then put our foot on the ball and come back and play it back, and Newcastle would reset. Now, if you could get to a point where you had your wingers flying on, if Johnson was flying up the right wing against Dan Burn, for God's sake, he's 6'7", decent player, don't get me wrong, right, in his day. But surely Johnson can roast him on a clear sprint up through the channels. So there were times where it just felt like we were one pass away or one break away from doing something a bit decent. But we have this nervousness, or not necessarily negativity, but we don't have the courage to really go for it. And we put our foot on it and we come back, and then the team's reset. And you think to yourself, you've put yourself under all of that pressure to invite the press to break it, and then you don't do anything with it, and you find yourself then just playing against the low block. And that's where I think some of the frustration comes from. And I think that's the next stage of the development of this team, is how does Frank get those players in that final third interacting and interchanging more effectively?
Oh, it's a good point, Si. It's that we all were open about it, but I'll pass over to Deed before I chuck my 2 cents in.
Yeah, I was actually
going
to say that I think that of all of the people that were not turning the ball back, I thought Johnson actually probably did it the most consistently.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Because, like you said, part of it is that he has Dan Burn on him. And Dan Burn, like you said, great defender, isn't necessarily going to be the best at acceleration. And that's something that Johnson can do very well. So, like, Johnson could slow him down and then speed him up, and then would get around him, and then he could whip the cross in. And like I said, that's where he created a lot of, I think, of our best, not goal scoring opportunities, because there really weren't any shots that came off the end of them, but created probably expected threat or whatever the new stat is. I'm not up to date, but I think another reason why that happens to us so much is because we focus so much on playing down the wings. Like, you could see it. There were some times where, like, Newcastle would break and all of their balls would be like down the middle. Like, a lot of their most dangerous counterattacks, and I'd say most dangerous counterattacks in general, I would say take up like space in the middle. And even for us, a lot of our best counterattacks came when we would play the ball out, and then Xavi would pick up the ball and run through the middle, and then lay the ball off to like Spence or Johnson, and then bring the ball back in quickly. But if you bring the ball up on the wing, like if our out ball was to Spence or Johnson, for example, you can double up on them, and then they can't keep going forward because there's the touch line, and you can't keep going sideways because you can't go to the left or right or whatever because there's the touch line. And then you just have to have two defenders, or even a defender can like essentially solo stop an attack. So I think that like part of the reason that we seem like so tepid is probably the wrong word, but I'm going to use it because I can't think of a better one. We seem like so tepid on those counterattacks is because we're not, like, the ball isn't always in the best position to like finish like a flying counterattack, if that makes sense. At least that's
'Cause,
how I saw it.
Because I think you're right, Deej, because the game doesn't get too stretched because you can double up in those areas, right? So if you go down the middle, your wingers can really stretch the game and create space because you've got to go and cover those wingers. But if you're outballed, like you say, if you're outballs up the wing, it's easy to close down that area of the pitch, which is why a lot of the time it feels like whenever we get the ball out from defence, we have no space. But our opponents, when they get the ball out of defence, seem to have acres to run into. And it's because of where we're playing those outballs, I think. I think you're absolutely right.
Indeed. Shall we move on to the topic, though, of some of our injuries? Because no matter what side Frank picks, he is quite limited with his options at the moment. I think it's kind of flying a bit under the radar just how many players we're missing.
We played every fit midfielder we had yesterday because we had to.
If we believe that Odegaard and Vicario had injuries as well, which is what was said by some media outlets, albeit not, so hopefully they're back soon. You've got those two out, and you've got Maddison, Davies, Dragusin, Kulusevski, Solanke, Bissouma, Udogi, Takai, Gray, Romero. So I count 12?
12.
Apart from, you could say, Takai, because we haven't seen him yet, and Bissouma, because he's been put into AWOL's, not AWOL's, we've pushed him out, right, for various reasons. That's still 10 senior players, not kids, players that you would expect to be getting minutes most months in the Premier League. Like, they wouldn't be every week, not all of them would be starters, but a lot of them would as well. Maddison would be a starter.
I think would fight for minutes on games.
Solanke
would start. Solanke would probably start.
Yeah. Romero
Odegaard
definitely would.
Romero.
Odegaard. So you got, arguably,
you've got nasty injured starting 11.
You've got 5 to 7 players who would start every week. Well, as part of your strongest 11.
Yeah, they would be in contention for a starting 11 on a rotational basis in the league, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other 3 would be getting minutes. I think like Takai would be someone who would have gone in a game like yesterday. Like that's what we bought him for, right? He's the backup to Van der Ven.
Gray would have played.
Gray would have played.
Gray would have played, yeah.
Davies? Possibly?
Possibly.
Yeah, maybe. Might have played him at centre-back last night.
Yeah, instead of Paulinho.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like Paulinho at centre-back, speaking of.
Yeah, he did all right.
I think he's our best Romero replacement. He doesn't have the passing range, obviously, but I think that because he plays as like a DM more, he has more of that natural aggression that Romero has that you don't really find in center backs. And I think that's we know how to play around that, so it's valuable for us.
But it is strange, guys. There's a table for this stuff. We are miles in front of any other side. If we count 12, the next closest side of injuries is 7. So almost double any other team in the league. Bournemouth have 1 player out, injured. Arsenal have 6 and Fulham have 7. So that's
Arsenal have 6, and I haven't stopped hearing about their injury crisis.
Yeah. Arsenal are missing Jesus, Odegaard, Havertz, Madueke, Saliba and Martinelli. So they are important players, but it's nowhere near the level we're at, right? So we've employed this new person, haven't we? Daniel, I had this name written down for. Anyway, we've employed a new person who's going to head up in their description the sports science, which I think you would assume underneath that comes the management of our team's wellness and staying fit, all that kind of stuff, the physios, all those kind of things. But it can't be a coincidence, can it, guys? 3, arguably 5 seasons in a row, with this one and the last 2 being particularly dramatic. It's just, how can we be in this situation? It's October. And we've got more in bonkers.
I think Ben made a good point to kind of drill down a little bit more to differentiate between those which are knocks and those which are more muscle injuries. Like the Gray, it came apparently from a knock that he got in the Monaco game. And we don't know what happened to Vic and Odegaard.
But it's also the communication with injuries, I think, with us that makes it difficult as a fan. I feel like
we've always had a bit of a history, don't we? Yeah, it's not too serious, and then the next thing you see him in.
Pretty sure Kulusevski was a knock too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next thing
Solanke
is
was only short term.
Yeah, next thing it's almost like the corner flag. It's the hospital bed, isn't it, before the surgery?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But again, if you look at, but you got to say that Madison and Kulusevski are from last season. That's not a this season issue, is it?
And Dragic.
And Dragishin was last season as well. So 3 of those 12 aren't. And Basuma, yeah, he's injured, but he wouldn't be getting a look in anyway. So that's 4 of the 12. So that's 8 that you've got out. Takai, that's 7 because he wouldn't be a starter. So yes, it's
still the
significant.
most.
Yeah,
Eight's still the most in the league.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't count the last season ones, but you've got to take that into account when you're assessing what's happening now at the club, right?
Technically, Madison is this season. He got injured in Hong Kong.
No, he did. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
True.
Yeah. Okay.
That's preseason.
I concede
not
that.
this season.
It's preseason. Postseason. Preseason.
It was preseason.
Yeah, so it wasn't this
Pre-season
season.
for this
it was
season
before
is this
this season.
But no, it was before this season. Oh god, let's go down to that rabbit hole. But it is challenging. But what can you do? It's one of those things that it's like you can't really even address it by signing more players. People go, you need to sign 3 more senior players in January. Where do we fit them? Who are we taking out? Because some of these injured players are coming back mid-season. What are we going to do? Just cancel Davies out the squad after not selling him and then bring in someone else? Cancel Dragusin out? The squad's full for European spots anyway. We can't.
It's overfull.
It's overfull. We're already leaving players out. We can't bring in more. We need to get these guys fit. And when they're all fit, we've got a good squad. But they're not all fit. So, yeah, is what it is. Did you guys... I've skipped the ref. You guys wanted to have a little rant about our little friend, didn't you?
I am so unbelievably frustrated at the way that referees, the way that referees allowed Joelinton to play.
Yeah.
And 2, the way that referees seem to be allowing players to tackle Kudus. Because this is the second game in a row that he's had a tackle that could have ended his season. The Garner tackle in Everton was a horror tackle. And even if Joelinton mounts him in the air. Like, at worst, that's a yellow card offense, and then it's a yellow card offense for the scrap afterwards. It blows my mind that you can get an even number of punishment for a guy who jumps on top of a player as he's running, and then gets in a fight with him, and the guy who pushes the guy off of him after he's sitting on him while he's on the ground. That just makes no sense.
I think even saying jump is kind of, or mount him, it's kind of understating the attack. I mean, he flew 2 feet at him to mount him.
It was
outrageous.
It was a waist-high scissor challenge.
Exactly, it's outrageous.
On a slightly aside note there, Xavi sometimes seems a bit lightweight in the challenge. I wish he'd be as hard in the challenge as he was as vociferous when he was getting involved in that scrap. Fair play to him, he's dived in, but show a bit of that in the challenge.
He actually did.
He went for it, didn't he?
He had a few of those in this game. I noticed he had a couple of times where he went toe to toe with Tonali, which I was impressed with. I think that it shows that he's kind of getting up to speed with the physicality of the Premier League.
He told the ref to wake up apparently as well.
He needed it. The other part that I was frustrated about is that I don't know. I get, apparently it's not in the rule book, but if a player's shoe comes off at a corner and he should be able to put his shoe back on and get back in position. I get that sounds like sour grapes, and I'd be celebrating it if we scored it. But in the interest, I don't know. I feel I'd feel a little bit dirty if we scored that goal. Obviously you celebrate it because a goal's a goal, and you can only get so many options. But come on, I don't know. I feel like that should be something in the refs wheelhouse to just be okay, come on. Obviously, just wait a second, because the ref can hold a restart for as long as he wants. Basically, there's no reason he couldn't have just said, okay, even let him back in the 18. He doesn't even need to be in the 6. Just get him back in the 18, and then let the free kick go. But not as soon as he stands up.
Dude, it's such a tough one. I don't want VAR or anything like stepping in on this stuff any more than it already is. There's already talk they're going to be able to review second yellows. I'm just finding the more and more, as time goes on, I used to be so pro the idea of technology stepping in and refs having more power and more rules to iron out more and more blemishes. I kind of preferred the world with all the imperfections.
Yeah,
No, that
and it
kind of
is an
uh,
imperfection. He just got it wrong.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, you're allowed to criticise the ref when he gets it wrong, right?
got
And
it wrong, yeah.
he made a poor decision. I wouldn't be asking for VAR to overturn that.
Yeah,
But I'm
me
just
either.
saying, listen, the ref it's in this. It's not against the rules, but it's not within the spirits of good sportsmanship, is it?
Yeah, they should
give
have
the
scored an
give
own goal.
they should have done. You're right, Jim.
I don't blame Newcastle at all. I mean,
No.
No, blame the ref.
they've got to take advantage of all opportunities. So no harm, no foul. But it was the ref's choice, as DJ said, to make them wait until Spence was back in position, and the ref blew it.
Fold it.
Yeah, so one of those that I think on another day, guys, I think we feel the performance wasn't bad. Still feel quite good that I feel every week things are on average moving in the right direction bit by bit. And we've got to be sympathetic to Frank not really having the squad to leverage the tactics he probably wants to leverage, the rotations he wants to leverage. And this season's going to be big peaks and big lows, and it's going to be lots of in the middle, little bumpy, smoothie kind of bits. It's not, we've got to just go with it. And it's disappointing to go out of cup. But hey, we've got bigger things ahead of us now. So is what it is. Talking of bigger things ahead of us, Chelsea, they're coming up on Saturday. Typically a game that Murphy's Law comes into play. If you don't know Murphy's Law, the theory is that everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And I believe that Tottenham are the case study against Chelsea for that. How are we feeling about it, guys? So you're laughing. Do you feel?
It's hysterics. It's not humour.
Do you feel? Go on, give us how you're feeling about it and a bit of a score prediction on this one. A little preview and a score.
Hate the game anyway. It's one of those games that you can never watch with any sort of happiness or joy. It's always sort of like on the edge of the seat stuff. Last 2 seasons, it's been almost a season ender for us, hasn't it? It's so you go into it with an air of trepidation anyway. The injuries aren't going to help. Hopefully, we'll have our strongest back line back in place. I don't know if Romero will be fit, but Danso's not a bad cover. Van der Ven will be in there. The one thing that you say about Chelsea at the moment is they're going to be a massive danger going forward. Okay. But they do have some weaknesses at the back. They're letting in goals. They've got a red card in them as well every game. So maybe we can, Paulinho gets stuck in and has a little bit of a tickle in the middle of the park there. I never look forward to these games. Any big London derby, I never look forward to them. But you can't miss them. But I'm worried about this one. Honestly, I am. Our home form is not where you want it to be. It's going to be a tough game, mate. It's going to be a tough game. And my head is fighting with my heart at the moment. My heart can't predict a Tottenham loss, but my head is saying it could quite likely be a close shave thing and Tottenham go down 2-1. But I think if you're gonna draw a prediction out of me, I'll go 2-2. So I think there's goals in the game, both sides.
And they're inexperienced. One of my best mates is Chelsea through and through, and he's saying like their issue is they're just so young. Their side,
Bit flaky, aren't they?
Yeah, they've got a bit of like stereotypical Spursy underbelly, is what this Chelsea side kind of, he says, kind of have. It's like there's just no, he's witnessed Chelsea through, similar age to me. So he was born 1990, 1991, that kind of time. So we've seen like a bit of them being mid-table, but mostly pretty good. And his view is that all the best sides have always had like these big experienced players, even if that's Thiago Silva, someone like that. He said, there's just no one. There's just no one. And these red cards are partly because there's no leadership in the side.
Yeah.
And this whole shift into set piece type football that we're seeing and it working has come at a terrible time for them, a bit like it did for Angeball with Spurs, because there's a counter to how Chelsea play. And we'll set up to play that way.
Does that mean Delap's out for the game as well?
Yeah.
Because he got sent off yesterday.
All English comps.
Yeah. Because that was going to be, I think he was going to be a challenge for us. He was last season when we played Ipswich, wasn't it?
Yeah. He did say as well that, by the way, all their injuries have kind of, apart from Palmer, are like back on track now, and they've got loads of players coming back who came back last game, and they had some time to get some minutes in the legs. So
how difficult it is to get loads of players back at the same time, though, because think about last season and the season before. It's not that easy just to slot them back in.
Yeah, true. Deej, score prediction? and rough vibe of how you think it's going to go?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, no one ever has a good vibe about a Chelsea game, but I don't know. The romantic in me says this is the perfect way to turn our home form around, and we kick on and we have a good performance. We make a good account of ourselves in the league, and yada yada yada. We have a successful season. We can grow on. The realist in me says, like you said, it's more likely that somehow, some way, anything that could possibly go amiss does. We'll have, I don't know, like we'll have another Pedro Porro banger own goal. We'll have, I don't know, an injury from something stupid. Like that's just how these games seem to go. But until that happens, I will delude myself into believing that it will go fine. So I'm going to say that we win 2-1.
Oof, Stu.
Oh, please, yes.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to be the negative Nelly here.
You challenging Johnny?
I just look at our squad, bare bones. They're going to be tired. We won't be able to do much rotation. It's Chelsea. I mean, you're saying, Jim, that Chelsea's got a young squad. We've got a young team as well.
We do, yeah.
And I think inexperience. I'm praying Romero's back, but I doubt he will be, because I think I can imagine him managing to wind up somebody, get them sent off. But otherwise, I think it's going to be a tough day, and I will hope that we only lose by 1 goal, so that we're still above them in the league on goal difference. And I'm going to predict a 2-1 win for Chelsea.
Yeah, brother.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
I'll go for 2-2. I think it'll be a good game, and I think we'll definitely go behind, and it'll feel a bit doom and gloom. But those who stay behind in the game will see a set piece equaliser in injury time, because their player will give away a red card for a needless challenge on the edge of the box, and we'll get a chance.
Who scores it? Is it a direct free kick? Is it a Pedro Porro masterclass?
Richarlison. He's going to spike
Richie,
side.
of course. Yeah, Richie, of course.
What flavour hat shall I bring to the next pod?
Very good. Right, just a little bit of a fun question at the end. We'll go for this one. I'll give you all slightly different ones, but Si,
yeah,
you've been out, had a good night, and your mates talked you into a little curry after the beers.
Nice.
You've had a nice spicy chicken vindaloo. Every time you need to go to the toilet, though, you first need to watch any Spurs goal in history before you can release. So you're on there, primed to go, desperate. What goal are you going to watch and repeat? Every time you need to go to the toilet, you have to watch a goal. Every time.
Goal against Watford. Glenn Hoddle's goal against Watford. The turn, the flick over Steve Sherwood all day long, mate.
Every time you have to go to the toilet,
every time. In fact, I'll be buying laxatives.
Just
so that I'll be almost permanently on the toilet watching that goal again and again. But when he gets the ball, that turn and then the chip over to over Sherwood into the far corner. Yeah, man, I could be watching that until the day I go.
Poetry in motion.
Can I choose one for him? Do you remember the goal? I think it might have been the Champions League, but I think it was the Europa League. The goal that Lo Celso scored eventually against Slavia Prague. The one where it bounces off the crossbar like 8 times, and you just have to go so bad, but the ball pings off again.
This time, no.
You just get little tiny bits of release in each bit. So that's kind of normal though at your guys' age, isn't it? When you try to pee, it's like
son.
It comes in 8 stages.
Yeah,
Come on.
To be fair, not as it's not as pliable as it used to be.
Deej, you've got an opportunity to win $1 million. This is the competition though. There's a penalty shootout, sudden death from the start. Harry Kane is the opposing penalty taker. You can pick anyone in our squad to represent you and take penalties on Team Deej. Who are you taking?
I don't think I have much of a chance if it's against Harry Kane. But let's see. I'm kind of trying to go through who I think. I am going to go for. I'm going to go for Van de Ven. I think he just. I don't know. I love a center back taking a penalty, and he's had enough nice shots for us that I can imagine that he can place it with some power.
I'll also give you a bit of an advantage because Kane is just probably arguably the best penalty taker, one of the best in the world, right?
Does Kane also have to be in goal?
I was gonna give this advantage. So I was gonna say
You've got Vicario in goal.
Vicario's in goal. How do we word this? So, yeah, when you can pick the goalkeeper to save Kane's to come up against Kane, and on
Probably-
you, yeah, go on.
Does it have to be from a Tottenham player? So Vicario,
No, you can pick anyone.
Anybody? Particularly great at
Donnarumma.
Prime Tim
Donnarumma.
Krul.
Donnarumma.
Prime Tim Krul.
Prime Tim Krul. 10 out of 10 against Tottenham, Tim Krul.
That one, yep.
Prime
He-
Tim Krul.
Tim Krul can save a Harry Kane penalty. I believe it.
Stu,
I think
every time
Donnarumma's done it.
Stu, every time you want to leave your house, you've got to beat a Tottenham player at a game of Snakes and Ladders. It's got to be the same player every time.
What, from history or this squad?
He can pick.
I've got to go for Gaza because that'd be hilarious.
Or Jamie
You want-
Redknapp because he can't.
You want someone old. You want someone older than you as well, because you don't want this to go on for eternity, do you?
Exactly. Gaza would get distracted. He'd start doing things wrong.
But it take you so long to get out. Can you imagine?
The game would drive you crazy. It lasts
Yeah.
forever.
Anyway, boys, up the Spurs and roll on Chelsea.
Come on, you.
Kill on you, Spurs.
Go on, you Spurs.